It's a Seymour Rocks. I just want to concentrate on the fires, the tragic fires in Siberia that are totally unprecedented. And it's not so much kind of what the effect is for the whole planet or even the Arctic. It's just the sheer ecological and human catastrophe. I mean, just think the start of all the animals in this huge area that live in these forests, and think about the small communities that are involved. And the tragedy is that they're being completely ignored by the authorities, the local authorities, and and by Moscow. I've seen footage of Putin, who has gone. He's shown great compassion towards the victims of the floods that have happened in the last month in the Irkutsk region. But I've yet to see any coverage outside of the Siberian Times of this, except in the most truncated way. But there's a Twitter campaign going on. There are two hashtags here on Twitter: put out the Siberian fires and save the Siberian fires. So I just went on Twitter and just took a few of these things. So please don't ignore this. Russians are suffering from smoke that spreads across the entire country. One of the largest forests in the world is disappearing. Endangered animal species are dying. Please spread this and help us. So the centre is ignoring them, and they're largely ignored by the world as well. Siberia is on fire. Millions of hectares of forest land are burning right now, affecting the ecosystem of our planet. Yet Russian authorities say it's economically unprofitable to extinguish the wildfires, while of course they pull out all the gas and the oil. Please spread the word. Do not ignore this information. The taiga is burning in Siberia, and our authorities refuse to put out the fire. Please pay attention to this issue. People are choking on smog. Human wealth burns. To anyone who doesn't know, my beautiful Siberia forests and animals are dying. Nobody is helping. Last photo, my patent's land. Smog is everywhere. Why the fire in Siberia is not being liquidated since May. Government claim not economically justified. Current size of affected area 33 million hectares. And the forests of Siberia burn in the fire. The largest forest in the world turns to ash, but the Russian government refuses to extinguish it. Why? Because it is economically unprofitable. Excuse me. So that's just a very small sampling of a lot of stuff on Twitter. So I'm just going to go to this other article, very good article from Siberian Times. More than 2 million hectares on fire in Siberia, with the tundra on fire, destroying the permafrost. Most fires will not be extinguished. Major cities polluted by fumes. So there's some very, very good photos here. And this is, I wrote about this the other day. This is a scene from Vanavara village in the Ivenki district of Krasnoyarsk. So the worst hit region, Krasnoyarsk, Yakutia, and Irkutsk, in a summer fire season seen as worse than recent years in the spread and intensity of the inferno. Some 784,000 hectares of wildfires are raging on permafrost zones, including the Arctic in Yakutia, officially Sakha Republic, and the Khanty-Mansi autonomous region, causing possibly irreparable damage to the tundra. Other infernos are sweeping through boreal forests, which are known as the lungs of the Northern Hemisphere. Here, centuries-old cedar, pine, and larch trees are turned to ashes. In many, indeed most areas, the authorities acknowledge that they will not be able to extinguish the fires because the areas are too remote or do not threaten people or strategic facilities. The cost of putting them out is seen as too great. So this shows how the fires have spread over the past 2 weeks. Eventually, rain and snow will do the job, yet there is concern at the pollution pumped into the atmosphere and the loss of vital forest tracts. And then they give some statistics for that. And look at this. Let's just see how long this is. 1 minute long, so let's just have a wee. Дорога на Г2. Газу. Не видно, как я. Ой, едем. Самое страшное сейчас будет. Самое страшное в таких условиях, когда выгорает кислород. Да. That gives a clue as to what's happening, the extent of the tragedy for Siberia, for that part of the world, and for the whole of humanity. The area on fire, according to official statistics, is 2.24 million hectares, larger than the country of Wales. Smoke is reaching both Novosibirsk and Yekaterinburg, Russia's third and fourth cities by population. Novosibirsk, along with Tomsk and Kemerovo, are covered with the smoke for the 5th day in succession. In the latter part of this week, the situation worsened. A cardiologist at Novosibirsk City Hospital No. 1, Irina Pankova, said that the number of people complaining of headaches, high blood pressure, and problems with breathing have significantly risen. In Krasnoyarsk City, also hit by smoke, the situation is much worse. There's been a pall of fumes since the 13th of July. So this is what it all looks like. It's Yekaterinburg, which is where the Tsarist royal family was murdered in 1918. I mean, look at this. But here, local meteorologists refuse to introduce what is known as the mode of unfavourable nature conditions. Oh, that's so familiar. They say that the pollution are not high enough to exceed the norm and complain that the meteorologists from the other cities covered with the smoke who decided to introduce the mode acted illegally. If the mode is introduced, factories must reduce emissions. Regional government Alexander Us demanded a voluntary reduction by factories since we all live in the same city and breathe with the same smoke. Locals staged a protest action in which they were walking in respirators calling for the mode to be introduced. I suppose that's like a state of emergency. A petition was charted on change.org demanding the introduction of an emergency mode across all of Siberia. It had gathered more than 100,000 signatures. Look at this. That. Barnaul. And that I presume is the summer sun. It's in Kemwa River. Oh boy, Tomsk. People who live in the vicinity of the wildfire have shared their desperate accounts. A resident of Tura, a settlement in the Yevinsky district in the north of Krasnoyarsk region, told how in neighboring Baikit village a bear suddenly ran out of the burning foliage. Only one man in the entire village has a license to shoot the bear. On the banks of the Tura River, bears are taking refuge on an island in the river. Planes cannot fly in many outlying regions because of the smoke haze. Smog has been here for 2 weeks already, said Olga. People walk in masks, choking. In the house you cannot breathe. You open the door or window and everything goes in the house. We have no air conditioners in the house because the village is so small, and because it's Siberia. Why would they need air conditioners? I just can't get the tragedy of this on an epic scale, and it's hardly making any waves in the Western media, still less the Russian media. It's a disgrace. But that's what denial does. Another Tura region, Tatiana, said it's impossible to breathe. Fires are not very close, but the wind carries everything here. It smells a lot. An emotive post from a Krasnoyarsk resident nicknamed Black Colibri shows a photo of a 7-year-old girl in thick smog wearing a face mask. This scene is from Vanavara village in the Evinki district of Krasnoyarsk region. The writer feels people are getting no support in the battle against the wildfires. In the village there are 1,000 more children, read the post. The same number of old men, people, children, old people have been breathing this for several weeks already. I ask all who reads this, distribute it. Let everyone know how they poison people while fat men stuff their pockets. That is the post that I posted a couple of days ago with a video. The fires are not extinguished. The taiga burns around the village. The nearest fire is 15 kilometers from Vanavara. As time goes, residents are told there is no danger for them. If the fire gets to Sabinsky Pier, which is 1 kilometer away, the village will simply be demolished. Wildfires in Russia's Irkutsk region swelled by 66,700 hectares in the past 24 hours, reaching 558,300 hectares, the regional government said in a statement on Friday. As of July 26, 4 wildfires engulfing 1,445 hectares have been contained, the statement reads. According to the regional government, 68 wildfires are still active, scorching 23,225 hectares. 54 wildfires scorching 102,314 hectares are burning in the controlled areas. I mean, it's hard to imagine in an underpopulated area of the world how they could be controlled. And I've got no idea, I mean, how much of this is peat, in which case this is just going to keep on burning, and it'll be extinguished for a while and it'll come back in the next season. Who knows? Another 46 wildfires engulfing 431,300 hectares have been recorded on the hard-to-reach area, while firefighting activities are pointless. 3 blazes affecting 1,810 hectares were extinguished in the region in the past 24 hours. According to the Regional Development of Meteorology and Environmental Monitoring, on July the 26th to the 27th, fire risk will remain high in the area engulfed. by wildfires. Worst hit from smog in Irkutsk region are Bratsk, Uskut, Ust-Ilimsk, Zheleznogorsk-Ilimsky and Toulon. Toulon was devastated by recent flooding, and I believe that's the flooding that was visited by Putin. Ekaterina Radionova, a resident of Uskut, posted, "While in the south of the region they continue to eliminate the consequences of the flood, in the north people are suffocating from the smoke. Such a smoke we have not seen since 2016. Even healthy people feel unwell. I have a headache and nausea in the morning, and I'm afraid even to imagine what hypertensive and asthmatics feel. Yesterday, my mother-in-law lost consciousness right outside the house, and you can see why." That's Fanavara. That's tragic. It's just, I just can't even begin to look at this. That's from the same little village. Since July 22nd, all flights have been cancelled in Kerensk town. The reason was heavy smoke due to forest fires. Currently, the visibility is about 100 meters. The date of the resumption of flights is still unknown. Shipping on the Lena River in Irkutsk region has been stopped. Residents of Zheleznogorsk-Ilimsky report in social networks. In the maternity hospital, the little ones are in oxygen masks. There is nothing to breathe. This is the forgotten area. Nobody cares. So they're excellent photos. I mean, you can't even see the river. Pavel Garin, head of the main directorate of the Emergencies Ministry in Yakutia, reported the wildfire situation in the Aldan, Verkhoyansk, Zhigansk, Lensky, Nurbinsky and Suntarsky districts remains very difficult. The situation is aggravated by the lack of precipitation, dry and windy weather. There are no threats to settlements from natural fires. Well, that's contradicted by what we read before. We keep the situation under constant control. Oh yeah. In Verkhoyansk, a specially adapted Mi-8 helicopters made 132 flights, dropping 456 tons of water on fires. Trees at the rim of the world-famous Batagai Depression are ablaze, and flights from the regional capital Yakutsk to the area have been grounded. Smoke over Ust-Ilimsk, Irkutsk region. In Krasnoyarsk region, the forestry minister made clear that fires in remote districts would not be extinguished. A spokesman said, "For the most part, we take the decision on non-extinguishing since there are no threats to human settlements nor objects of the economy. The cost of putting out such fires could be 10 times more than the possible damage." The problems of tackling remote fires was also highlighted in Irkutsk region. Alexander Agafonov, an advisor to Rosleshoz, said, "Look, the nearest space is 500 kilometers from the fire in the taiga. A plane back and forth drops a small amount of water. We will be ruined if we use aviation for such purposes." So this is what you call a predicament at the end of time. And we're going to see more and more of this. This is not a one-off. Such a policy has been permitted for 4 years, but remains controversial because it allows the burning of forests for weeks at a time with no intervention and the loss of swathes of timber resources. The head of the Situation Center of the Federal Service for Hydrometeorology and the Environmental Monitoring, Anatoly Tsigankov, said the fire danger remains acute in the north of the Irkutsk region and south of Yakutia up to 28th of July. Officially, the cause of fires is scorching 30 degrees temperatures, strong winds, and heat lightning. Meanwhile, Russia's Federal Reserves Ministry wrote that the wildfires in the Krasnoyarsk region were caused by a combination of human actions, 35.8% of all cases, flames spreading from other regions, 34.4%, and lightning, 25.4%. So let's just finish with this. This is Ust-Ilimsk.